right, Kamala, let's go.
We're here live tonight. We're live tonight. No, we're not live, are we?
Yeah, we're not live, but it's live as it's going on.
We're here, not live. We wanted to be live, but someone died, so sorry. Anyways, we are going to be watching this historic debate. And I say historic because the traffic, people are in the streets, people are everywhere. People for Trump, people for Kamala, people for who knows who else is going to be on this ticket. But we are also going to be watching this debate, which is a historical feat in its own, and be giving our opinions throughout the entire episode. You probably won't do all of it. We still want to talk some, but we want to say thank you so much again to Angelo for letting us take over the Montecito compound, and for Cousin Louie, he put all this together in literally 5 minutes.
Let's go, let's go.
With that being said, welcome to Do It Like Danny and the debate.
Woo!
I'm going to tell a million stories, and maybe one will hit home, and you'll be like, wow, that happened to me. And it's not about me. What is? You know, television is a very, very crazy beast. I learned so much at Tyra. This is real emotion. This is something that I experienced.
I want the world to see what I have always seen, and that is the love that you have for just being yourself.
I love this person who knows who he is, who can make people laugh.
I think the script I gave you was a little bit different, but I'll take that.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm drinking at work because it's my show. I drink on my show.
The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for
That's what we need for our show.
Rebuttals? No, I can just mute you guys whenever you guys are talking too much.
We should have a clock, and I'd like a microphone that long. That's long. Oh my God. What a pretty podium. Is that lucite?
President Trump
I should have worn my blazer. I have a blazer just like hers.
Vice President Harris
Look at the same cut.
to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage.
Oh my God, here we go.
Here we go, Angelo. Trump 2024, right?
President Bush and President Obama. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Look at he's staring her down.
Wow.
He hit her.
Let's have a good debate.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a small stage.
There's some tension there.
Yeah.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started.
Because he's so tall.
I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their #1 issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country.
Is he on Xanax?
Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were
to
elected
sedate
4
him.
years ago,
Yeah.
and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build
being
what
really
I call
good.
an opportunity economy.
It's early
Because
on.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
We know that we have
Just wait.
a
They said
shortage
he's been
of
practicing.
homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend
how are
on
you gonna do
extending
that?
a tax
And are we
cut
better off?
for
She's
those
not answering the
families
question.
at $6,000, which is the largest.
They're going to start
child
selling
tax
condos
credit
at
that
Trump
we have given
Tower.
in a long
Right.
time, so that those young families
Uh-oh.
can afford
he's
to
look
buy
at
a crib,
he's
buy a car seat, buy
he wants to
clothes
break
for their
character.
children.
He must be
My
biting on something, his
passion,
lip or
one of them
something, or
is Small
tongue.
businesses. I was actually
warming
my
up.
mother
He's
raised
got a
my
mouthpiece.
sister and me.
Something.
But there was a woman who
Some
helped
beef jerky.
raise us. We call
He had
her
extra
second
Xanax
mother.
today.
She
Look at
was
the
a
little
small
eyes are
business owner.
droopy.
I love our small businesses. My plan is
looks
to
like the
give
Country
a
Bear Jamboree.
$50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's
Come
economy.
on, girl, answer the question.
My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before.
File
which is to
bankruptcy.
provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
He almost nodded in agreement
Trump
and stopped himself.
First of all,
President
I have
Trump.
no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. we're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are
Oh,
going to
he
finally,
practiced.
after
Yeah.
75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world.
He's a
And
good actor.
The tariff
Yeah.
will be
I'll give him that.
substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off
Yeah,
because
but
it was
the
so much money
tariffs
they
we
get.
pay.
It would totally destroy everything that they've
No,
set
he's
out
saying
to
he
do.
charges
They're
other
taking in
countries
billions of dollars
tariffs.
from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago.
No,
This
I'm
has
not
been
quite
a disaster
sure
for
about
people,
that.
for the middle class, but for every class. On top of
Where's the
that,
light
we
counter?
have millions
That's what
of
we
people
needed to
pouring
do.
into our country from prisons and jails, from mental
Oh.
institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African
Oh yeah,
Americans
the
and
the people from the
Hispanics,
insane
and
asylums
also
are taking the
unions.
jobs
Unions are gonna be
from
affected very
Mexicans.
soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns
I saw it
throughout the
just
United
today.
States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora.
So specific.
Ooh, he's
Colorado.
hitting.
They
He's
are
hitting
taking
swing
over the
states.
towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in
Taking over
violently.
buildings.
These are the people that she and Biden led into our
Biden.
country, and they're
Love the
destroying
way he
our
says that.
country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest
mean,
economies in the history
letting
of our
third
country.
world country brings
I'll
third
do it
world
again,
crime.
and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border
Yeah,
security
you jumped
during
ahead.
this debate, but
Yeah.
I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the
I mean,
worst
but in
public
all
health
fairness, we were going
epidemic
through
in a century.
Pandemic.
the
Donald
pandemic.
Trump
Absolutely.
left
So-
us the worst
that-
attack
that might have
on
been done by
design,
democracy
Yeah.
Since the Civil
And he
War.
didn't set us up very
and
well.
what we have
Yeah.
done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what
And
I
come on,
intend
he's
to
left
do is
messes
build
everywhere.
on what we know
He's
are
left
the
destruction in the
aspirations and hopes
past.
of the American
I
people.
have to
But I'm
give
gonna
him
tell you on
credit.
this debate
He
tonight,
is
you're going to hear from the same
so
old tired playbook.
Calm.
button
A bunch
mouth.
of
Oh,
lies,
yeah.
grievances, and name
It's
calling.
early in the debate,
What
though.
you're going to
Just-
hear
he'll-
tonight
he'll lose it.
is a
The wig will
detailed
come off.
and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president
Look,
intends
he
on
shook his
implementing
head
if
yes.
he were
Yeah.
elected again.
He's
I believe
listening
very
so that he
strongly
can
that the
respond to
American
her.
people want a
He is
president who
taking
understands
everything
the
in
importance
so he can
of
come
bringing
back
us
at
together,
her
knowing we have so
and,
much more in
and
common
talk
than what
smack to her. That's what he's
separates us.
doing. But
And
you're
I
right.
pledge to
He's
you
nodding.
to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you
But
a
that's a
minute to
subconscious
Number one, I
agreement.
have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025.
That's not
that's
true.
out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it.
Well, he doesn't
this was a
read.
group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas. I guess some good, some bad.
think my
but
camera
it makes
stopped.
no difference. I have nothing
Why
to
would
do.
you say some
Everybody
good,
knows I'm
some
an
bad?
open book.
Why
Everybody
would
don't
you
know it.
fortify that if you don't know
If
it?
you don't know it.
If you don't know it.
And create a great economy like I
Angela,
did
can you
before.
just see if my camera's
we
okay?
had
It
the
keeps
greatest
falling
economy.
down.
We got hit
But I had
with
to
the
switch it around for
pandemic.
some reason. It
falling.
And
stopped.
the pandemic was
How's
not
the angle, though?
since 1917, where
falling.
100 million
You're
people
sinking.
died. Has there been
But, you
anything
can still
like
see
it?
me?
We did a phenomenal
Okay,
job
cool.
with the pandemic. We handed
A fantastic
them over
job with the
a
pandemic.
country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
It's 'cause it was
we
closed.
made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns. We got masks. We did things that
Gowns?
were impossible. And people
Did
give
you
me
get a
credit
gown?
for
I didn't get a
rebuilding
gown.
the
I didn't get a
military. They give me
ventilator
credit for
either.
A lot of things, but
And I
not
had
enough credit for the
smile.
great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs.
She should be listening.
Bounce back, and
See,
it bounced
she's-
back, and
she
it
needs
went
to
their
listen,
benefit,
that she
but
can
I was the one
respond,
that created them. They know
and
it,
she
and
can
so
get
does
back at
everybody
him.
else.
Vice President Harris.
There we go. Yep, she will.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you.
I don't like the way she keeps
And
saying
when
Donald
you look
Trump.
at his
Well,
economic
because
plan,
people
it's
say
all about
president.
tax breaks
So
for the
she's
richest
just,
people.
yeah, breaking that.
I am
Were you on the
offering
team,
what
Angela?
I've
That's good,
described
Angela.
as an
I wouldn't
opportunity
hear that. I'm
economy,
like, why does she-
and
I would
the
kinda like,
best
yeah,
economists
Trump.
in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan
Where Ivanka
would
went.
actually explode the deficit.
And where is his family?
16 Nobel
Yeah.
laureates
Where are the
have
Trumps?
described
Yeah,
his
exactly.
economic plan as something that would
Where is Ivanka?
increase inflation, and by the middle of next year,
Counting her billions.
And the wife. Where's the wife?
Melania's
you
in New
just
York.
have to look at where we are and
Yeah, where
where
are
we
they?
stand on the issues.
And where are
I'd
they having
invite you to know
the
that Donald Trump
where is
actually
this?
has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
That's
Oh.
I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan
Brilliant.
that's going
Oh,
to
it's a big plan.
The best
It's
plan
the
of the
best
world.
plan ever.
It's gonna make
Yeah.
People want to be able
People
to go
love
and
it.
work
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
create jobs.
Some
and
good,
create a
some
lot
bad.
of good, solid
Here we go.
money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run.
I've
4
seen
Here we
it.
go. Here we go.
She doesn't have a plan. Take a look
He's
at her
quoting
plan.
Dr.
She doesn't
Seuss.
have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on
Mr.
something you
President,
both
why are
brought
they
up.
saying that?
The
'Cause
Vice
that's
President brought up your
not
tariffs.
what he
You
is.
responded,
That's
and let's
weird.
drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford
Try not
higher
to shake the
prices
table,
because of
please.
tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have higher
Oh, they
prices
switched
is
sides.
China
Now he's over
and
there.
all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years.
China. Oh
I
my
charge, I was
God.
the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries.
Hundreds of
And, you know,
billions.
if she doesn't like them,
We should
they
fact
should have
check
gone out
that.
and they
Yeah.
should have immediately
Because
cut
why
the
the fuck am I
tariffs. But
paying
those tariffs
$8
are
a
there
gallon for
3.5
gas?
years
Yeah.
now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never
Oh, God,
seen a
everything's
worse
the
period of
highest.
time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs.
But
or
we
Cereal.
also were
else.
coming off of the
The
pandemic.
people
Yeah.
of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed
People are
the
dying?
economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was
Not
terrible.
true.
President
Not
Harris, I
true.
wanna
Fact
ask
check.
your
Fact
response
check.
to
Yeah,
what the
who are they
president said there,
polling?
Because the Biden administration did keep
Dr.
a
Seuss.
number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald
he
Trump's
just wants to
presidency,
jump in, you
he
can
ended
tell.
up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military. Basically sold us out. When it comes to China,
Sold us
making
out to the
sure
Chinese.
that
Oh.
wins the
I wonder if
competition
those
for
were
the
Dorito
21st
chips.
century. Which means focusing on the details of what that requires. Focusing
like a
on
mannequin.
relationships with our allies. Focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing. Focusing on what we need to do to support
here's the
America's
problem.
workforce so that we don't end up
His
having
voting
on
group,
the short end
these
of
are
the
too many
stick
big
in
words.
terms of
They don't
workers'
understand this.
rights. What Donald Trump
They
did-
have. They
let's
just go,
talk
"Oh my
about
God,
this.
honey,
With COVID,
they were
he actually
debating."
Oh,
I'm-
God, is Matt here?
Yeah.
And
And I hate to be like that,
Yeah.
but it's
Thank
true.
you,
They
President
don't know
Xi!
what's a
Exclamation
tariff.
point.
Right.
Is it coming in
When we
strawberry
know
flavor?
that she was
Do you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
absolutely.
and not giving us
They like the
transparency about
insults and the
origins
digs.
of
yeah.
COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy. now.
Everything?
In fact, I was
Oh,
going to send her a
God.
MAGA
Please.
hat. She's gone to my philosophy. If she ever got elected, she'd change it. And
Is it weird that
will
it feels
be the
different
end of
now?
our country. She's a Marxist.
Like
Everybody
before,
knows
when
she's a
he would
Marxist.
talk,
her father's
it was
a Marxist
like-
professor
Oh,
in
he's gonna
economics.
lose it.
And
it just
with
feels
her
different
well.
now. Like
Yeah.
she's
When you look
laughing at him,
what
and
she's
it's
done
funny
to our
now.
country,
Yeah.
And when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly,
Millions of people
where it's,
monthly?
I believe 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21.
Oh, God.
That's bigger than New York
It's 100
State
million.
pouring in.
Wow.
And just look
Gee,
at what
where are
they're
they
doing to our
going?
country.
Yeah.
They're criminals.
They're all
Many
on the
of these
freeway
people
today.
coming in are criminals. And that's bad
Criminals.
for our
All
economy, too.
criminals.
You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she
Yeah,
has
is his wife? Did we
destroyed
fact check
our
his
country
wife
with
yet?
policy
Her immigration
that's
status?
insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you.
Who hates our country?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often
here we go.
touted that
Yeah.
you were able to kill Roe v.
My
Wade.
body.
She
Last
looks like
year,
Kamala.
You said that you were proud to be the most
Carrie
pro-life
Wilson,
president
or
in
what's that
American
fat
history.
actress,
yeah.
Then last month, you said that your
Just a nice
administration
little flip
would
there.
be
Think
great
it's her
for
real
women
hair?
and their
Look at me.
reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida,
It's a nice
you
fake
surprised
flip.
many with regard to your
And her
6-week
makeup is very
abortion ban
demure.
because you
Yeah.
initially said it was too short. And you
His
said,
makeup
Kerry
is
Washington.
I'm gonna
his
be
makeup.
voting
Thank
that
you,
we
Kerry
need
Washington.
more than
His
6
makeup is
weeks.
very
But
demure
then
too.
the
Yeah, he
very
doesn't
next
look
day,
burnt.
You reversed course and said you would vote to
Man,
support
I don't
the
know if he's
6-week
biting
ban.
on something.
Vice President
So that
Harris
he-
says that
They sedated
women
him.
should
I was gonna
have
say they had to
on
give him
the
something,
issue
yeah.
of
Yeah.
He seems
abortion
calm.
Calm him
because
down.
You've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should
That
they trust you?
ADHD
Well, the reason
medicine,
I'm doing that
that
vote
works.
is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor
People are
of West
getting
Virginia,
aborted?
the previous governor
Never
of
mind.
West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an excellent job, but the governor before,
God.
he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby.
Execute?
And that's why I did that, because
Like
that
a hanging, a
predominates,
shooting?
because they're
Shooting, they
radical.
put a
The
blindfold
Democrats
over
are
it,
radical
make
in
it
that.
stand up.
And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country.
Because J.D.
he
Vance is
really
such
out
a
of
great
it.
one.
But
Wasn't
her
J.D.
vice
Vance caught in
presidential pick
drag?
Says abortion in the 9th month
Louis.
is absolutely fine. He
Wrong
also
episode.
Says execution after birth. It's execution, no
See,
longer
she
abortion,
shouldn't be
because the baby
responding
is
so
born
much.
Is
She should
okay.
just
and that's not
take
okay
it
with
in,
me.
Let it-
Hence the
listen,
vote.
Yep.
But what I
and
did
then
is
get ready
something
to respond
for
in a very
52
good
years
way.
They've been trying to get
They
Roe
prepped
v.
her,
Wade into
But
the
I
states.
feel like she's rattling
And
off
through the,
statistics. I don't.
genius
She has
and
more
heart and strength
passion.
of six
And that scares
Supreme
me.
Court justices.
Well,
we were
we'll see.
able
We'll
to
see.
do that.
Yeah.
Now, I
Let's see her
believe in the
response.
exceptions for rape,
Because abortion's
incest,
one of the
and
biggest
life of the
topics.
mother.
Yeah, oh,
I
yeah.
believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan
that's
did
done,
also.
though.
And he's
85%
really
of
not
Republicans do exceptions.
Well-
Well,
Very
you know,
important.
his
But
fan
we were able
base,
to
and I
get
say
it,
fan
and
base,
now states
the, you know,
are
the Christians
voting
and the
on it.
Catholics
And
and
for
our
the
crazy
first
cousin
time,
who
you're going
believe
to
that,
see, look, this
you
is
know,
an issue that's
you shouldn't
torn our
have
country
abortion because
apart
obviously they've
for
never been in this
52
situation, or maybe they've
years.
never even had sex
Every
before.
legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican,
Every Democrat.
liberal, conservative,
Oh.
they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote.
I didn't.
And that's what happened. Now,
This is
Ohio,
everybody.
Yeah.
the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had
God.
great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those
He's
six
only appealing to
justices.
Christians.
There is
That's
no
the crazy
state in
part.
this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your
Thank
response
you.
to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies and the surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here.
Good job. Good
Yep.
job. Look at the
Donald
camera.
Trump
Yep.
Good
He
job.
selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade.
Oh my God.
And they did exactly as he intended.
Dying.
And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion
What
bans that
state,
make no
though?
exception even for rape and
A lot of
incest.
them.
20.
Which understand what
That's a
that
lot.
means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That
I
is
agree.
immoral.
Nobody should be telling women what
And
to do.
one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
Thank
I
you.
have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers
He's
She's
not
looking at her.
go to jail,
Have
and
you
she's
noticed that? He
bleeding
doesn't
out
look her way at
crying.
all.
At all.
Because
He didn't
he'll
want
react.
that?
Yeah.
Her husband didn't want
Look.
that.
They must have put him on a
12 or 13
podium,
Oh,
my-
and they
survivor of
must have like
incest?
exploded firecrackers
Being
around him,
forced to carry
right?
pregnancy
'Cause that's how. Look at how.
Can't hear. He's
Calm
all
he
deaf.
is.
Yeah.
He's
And
too
I
calm.
pledge
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's on
when
something.
Congress
Yep.
passes
He's
a
definitely.
bill
They gave
Yep.
him
to
something
put back in place
to
the
calm him down.
protections of Roe
Louis,
v.
can you
Wade.
get some of
As
that for
President
us?
of the
Yeah.
United States, I will proudly
Whatever he's on.
sign
It's a
it
little
into
weed.
You see those eyes?
law. But understand,
He just
if
got like an
Donald
old
Trump were to be
curmudgeon.
reelected,
Yeah, Milan.
he
Oh,
will
yeah,
sign
he's
a
Archie
national
Bunker.
abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a
His
national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in
He's
particular
ignoring
the freedom
her.
to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans.
I wish he
and
wouldn't say everybody,
else,
'cause not
and
everybody
every
in
this
legal
world
scholar
wanted that.
wanted it to be brought
And he's
back
saying
into the
Democrats
states, and
also,
the states
too.
Yeah.
are voting, and it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart.
No, it
And they
hasn't.
wanted
What
it back
issue?
in the
Yeah.
states.
Abortion.
Did
It has
something
not
that
torn
nobody
this
thought
country
was
apart.
It
It's so
has not.
People are
stupid.
not
States are now voting.
marching in the streets
What
over
she says
abortion.
is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been
He's not in
taken over by the
favor of it, but
states.
he
Would you veto
wanted
a
it. The
national
Supreme.
abortion ban if it
Well,
came
I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially
yeah.
now with the 50-50, and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe.
Oh, please.
The
You've been
student loans,
bankrupt how
and
many
then
times?
Her, I think probably her
Jesus.
boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look,
Oh.
her boss went out and said,
Wasn't he
"We'll do
always
it
playing
again. We'll
golf?"
do it again."
Yes,
thank
Got
Yeah.
rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason
His
they
ear looks
lost
pretty good.
to
Think
the
it's a
Right.
fake
millions
ear?
and
He
millions of
heals. He
people
heals
that had
quickly.
a
He's a good
video
healer.
Yep.
He's the best
He's a big
healer.
healer.
He's
a
the
big
biggest
healer.
healer.
It's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
Okay, that's
But
one
if I
issue.
could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with JD. In all fairness, JD.
Oh,
and I don't
let's
mind
throw
if he
JD under
has
the bus.
A certain view, but I think he was speaking for me.
Isn't
but
he on your
I
team?
really didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Look,
He should be
we
talking
don't
about
have to
this with him.
discuss it because
Oh.
she'd never be able to get it. Just like she couldn't get student loans, they couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government, and we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, and as you rightly mentioned,
How do you do
nowhere
that,
in
though, with the
America
Supreme Court that already
is a
overturned
woman
it?
It
carrying
overturned,
a
yeah.
pregnancy to term and in asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans.
He's not once looked
who
at her.
pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable.
He is not
And the
looking at
people
her.
I'm
of
telling you,
America,
they said
the
focus
majority of
on us
Americans
like his
believe in a woman's
advisors.
I'm
right
gonna
to
do the
make
Donald
decisions
Trump
about
from
her
now on.
body.
Just be like,
And that is why, in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both,
Maybe
the
he's looking
people
at her
of
in the
America have
monitor.
voted for
Oh.
freedom.
Maybe there's a monitor in front
Excuse
of
me, I have to respond. Another lie.
Another lie. Let's count all the
I have been a
lies.
leader on IVF.
Oh, now he's a leader.
Which is fertilization.
Oh.
The IVF.
Oh.
I
A
have been
leader.
a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature
state.
2 days
He's
later
going at-
voted
he's-
it in. I've
Yeah.
been a leader.
Yeah, well, he
on it.
has to,
They know
right?
that, and everybody else knows it.
He
I
went
have
through
been a
IVF.
leader
Everybody
on
else knows it.
fertilization,
Who are all
IVF.
these like
And the other
these
thing,
forums of who
they-
everybody who knows everything?
I
Our
know.
cousin.
Oh yeah.
Will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her
Why-
that
why
question?
don't you
That's
answer
the
the
problem.
He's unraveling.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
unraveling.
yeah. The question
We're
would be-
25 minutes in. He's
Abortions
unraveling.
in the
Yep.
7th month,
We knew it.
The 8th month, the 9th month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look.
They're
at
gonna
the
abort
governor,
after
former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said
God.
we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President
Wow.
Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country.
Even immigrants.
Vice
We lose
President
all our
Harris, you
good
were tasked by
housekeeping
President
with the
Biden
wall.
to get to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed
'cause Trump
tough
didn't
new
finish
asylum
the wall.
restrictions. We know
Thank
the
you.
numbers
Yeah,
since
whatever
then
happened to
have
that? I would bring that up, right?
But my
Yeah.
question to you tonight is
Where's
why
the
did
wall? It's because you
administration
didn't finish
wait
the
until
wall.
6
That's
months
yeah,
before
that's
the
a great
election
one.
to act?
Trump
Would
didn't
you have
finish
done
the wall.
anything differently
He's the
for
reason why we have all these
President Biden?
immigrants running
I'm the
in.
only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the
Oh, yeah.
trafficking
She's
of
gonna get
guns,
into her
drugs,
background.
and human beings.
Yeah.
And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United
She
States
should
Senate,
refer to him as the
came up with a
defendant.
border security
yep.
bill.
She
which
will.
I
Trust, it'll
supported.
come up. The rapes.
And that bill would have put 1,500
attacks.
more border agents on the border to help those
She should
folks who
ask
are
him, where's
working there right
Melania?
now
Oh, look, he's
overtime,
smirking.
trying to do their
He's like,
job.
another
It
lie.
would have allowed us
But
to
he's
stem
listening,
the flow of
he's
fentanyl
gathering,
coming into the United
and he's
States.
waiting to
I know
fire
there are
back.
so many
Oh, yeah.
I've
families
never
watching
seen
tonight
him this
who are
calm.
personally
Well-
I'm
affected
scared.
by
Right.
the surge of fentanyl
He didn't
in our
snort a
country.
line or two
That
before.
bill
Yeah.
would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations.
Because he's not going against
for
Joe Biden.
trafficking
He
in
doesn't
guns,
need to be
drugs,
that
and human
young,
beings. But you know
older
what
guy.
happened
Yeah.
to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of
If he
fixing
shakes his head,
a
yes,
problem.
he's in agreement with
And
that.
understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised.
Oh, shit.
And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see
yeah.
during the course of his rallies,
Oh,
he talks
yep,
about
yep,
characters
yep.
like Hannibal Lecter. He
Thank
will talk
you.
about
Yep.
windmills cause cancer.
Yep.
And what you will also notice is that people start leaving
He's afraid
his
of
rallies
sharks.
early
Windmills cause
out of
cancer?
exhaustion
Yep.
and boredom.
Yep. Oh, he's
And I
shaking
will
his
tell
head.
you,
Yes.
the thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not
Yep.
hear him talk about your
Nope.
needs, your dreams, and your desires.
Yes,
I
you
believe
go,
you.
Carla.
Shit, the gloves are off now.
Yeah,
puts you first,
I
and
invite
pledge
you to go to.
you that
Oh,
I
now
will
we should go.
On that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional
Put him in the hot
agents and
seat.
officers
Yep.
on the
Yeah.
border.
First, let me respond as to
No,
the
no, no.
rallies.
Put yourself in the hot seat. Answer the fucking
People start
question.
leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no
Oh,
reason to
no
go.
one goes to her
What?
rallies.
The people that do go, she's
don't worry
busing
about
them
that
in
one.
and
We all know
paying
that
them
one's
to be
bullshit.
there,
Oh.
And then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my
Oh,
rallies.
no, she
put her-
The biggest
her
rallies,
hand
the
in
most
her
incredible rallies
Yeah.
in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into
Oh,
another
thank God he didn't
subject.
say two.
What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions
Are we on the verge of a
people to
war?
come into
I don't.
our
Apparently.
country and look at
I
what's
don't-
happening.
communism?
Can I
World
tell
War
you what's
III?
going to happen, though?
States, and a lot of
They're going to
towns
take
don't wanna
that
talk. It's not gonna
soundbite
be
of
Aurora
him
or
saying no one
Springfield.
leaves the
A lot of
rallies,
towns don't
and they're
wanna
going to
talk
show
about it
people
because they're
lose
so
leaving the
embarrassed.
rallies.
In
They've already
Springfield,
doing it.
I
They're eating
love.
the dogs, the people that came.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That's a lie.
Oh my
They're
God.
That's a lie.
They're
It's the
eating
That was
immigrants.
proven. That was
of the
proven that was a
people
lie.
that live there, and this is what's happening in our country, and it's
This
a
is what's
shame.
happening?
As far as rallies are
Oh,
concerned.
oh,
as
he
far
almost
as
looked at
the
her.
reason they go is
Almost.
they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase: make America great again. She's destroying.
I think
this
America's
country,
pretty great.
And if she becomes president,
Well,
this
Flaws
country
and
has a
all.
wall.
chance of
Flaw-
success. Not only
They would've made it
success,
greater.
Will end up being
Yo, give me a hammer, Louis.
The wall. The wall. Give some
I just want
glue.
to clarify here. You
Yeah.
bring up Springfield,
I got duct tape.
Ohio,
Angela's letting all the
ABC
cute
did reach
immigrants
out to the
in.
city manager there. He told us there have
The
been
cute
no
ones.
credible
Red rope
specific
there,
claims of
velvet
acts being
rope.
harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've
this.
seen people on television.
Let me just say here. This
Oh,
is the
please.
Yeah, shut up. Let him
My
finish the
dog
question.
was taken and
His
used
dog
for
was-
food, so maybe
Mute his
it's
mic.
safe
Mute his mic.
for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people are
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by.
This is where he loses.
He's
He's
losing
losing
it.
it.
Mute his
He's
mic.
losing it. Yes,
No,
look at her face.
But let him. No, let him spin out of
I'll let you
control.
respond to the rest of what you've heard.
She can't.
You talk about extreme. You know,
He's gonna say, "Oh, that
this is,
laugh."
I think one
Yeah.
of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans
And
who have
5,000
formerly worked
dogs.
with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John
You gotta go
McCain,
put your dog
including
away.
the endorsement
Poor
of
Pepper.
former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney.
He's shaking
And
his head.
if
You
wanna
can't
really
agree.
know
Ooh.
the inside track on who the former
drugs are wearing
president
off.
is,
You
Yeah, the
think
drugs
too
are
early?
Here we go.
The Ritalин's coming.
Yeah.
Chief of Staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former
got a small
national
mouth.
security advisor has said
Oh,
he
because
is
he's just trying to.
dangerous
He's
and
just
unfit.
trying to like not talk.
Button
His
it up.
former Secretary of Defense has
She's-
said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term.
Watch, he's gonna say he's a loser.
And when we
Yeah.
listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
Thank you.
President Trump, I'll give you
Sorry,
a quick minute to
Louis,
respond.
but thank you.
Thank you.
here we go.
Because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person.
No, you're not.
I fired most of those people.
Oh,
Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job.
they did good jobs and bad
They never
jobs.
fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't
At
fire
Arlington,
Oh,
at
God.
Arlington, where he got
Yeah.
the smackdown.
people because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad
What
job,
about when you got shot in the
I
ear?
fire him. And you take a guy like
That was pretty
Esper, he
incompetent,
no
right?
Good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book because with me they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they
Nobody
have done
else can.
such a poor job, and they never
now they did a poor
fire
job.
anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation.
These are some of the most
They didn't
respected
fire
people
any
in
of
the
their economists. They have the same people.
world.
That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes
Where's Ivanka?
than any Republican
Yeah.
in history by far.
Oh God,
In
everything's
fact,
the biggest
I got
in
more votes
history.
than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Oh God.
Let me
let's-
continue on immigration. It was what
Shove
you
a
wanted to talk about
vomit
earlier, so let's
bag.
get back to your deportation
He
proposal
literally said that on
the Vice
national
President has
television that they
reacted
eat
to as
dogs.
well.
Yep.
President Trump
And
you
Wow.
propose
And
the
his
largest
dog. Didn't
domestic
he-
And
did he say
people
his dog was
just
missing?
right now
country.
believe
You
that.
say
Oh,
you
yeah,
would
of
use the
course.
National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police, yes.
You also said you would use local police.
Yeah,
How
it's
would
just a
you
fear tactic
deport
against
11
immigrants.
million
It's pretty wild to
undocumented
watch.
immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher.
It's a cleansing.
Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is
Oh,
much
wow.
higher because of them. They allowed
Oh.
criminals.
No,
many,
you're not
many
answering the question
millions
now.
of criminals.
How are you going to
They
do that?
allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country.
Oh,
And
she's
they're now
right.
in
She's
the
taking
United
notes.
States
Yes!
And told by their countries like Venezuela,
Ask
"Don't
about the
ever come
wall,
back or we're going to
please."
kill you." Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world
Have gone down.
is way down You know why? Because they've
They're
taken
here.
their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country.
Oh, they gave them to
This will
Kamala.
be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow.
Good God,
and I
help
think
us.
They probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it.
Well, you can't
because
vote if you're an
they're
illegal.
destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done
stop.
like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country.
But he didn't
Millions of
answer the
people
question.
He
let
never
in,
does.
and
He
all over
asked
the
him,
world.
Yeah.
how
Crime
are
is
you
down
going
all over the
to
world
get
except
these
here.
immigrants
Crime here is
deported
up and
out
They're
of the
not.
country?
It's all
Despite their
bullshit.
fraudulent
Well, he said, are you going to go
statements that
door
they
to door?
made.
Yeah.
Crime in this country is through the roof.
He
And we have a
can't
new
get
form of
past
crime. It's
his
called
talking
migrant
points.
crime.
Yeah.
And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris, I'll
FBI
give you the-
they were defrauding statements. They didn't
Oh, now the
include
FBI is
worst
fraudulent.
cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It
No,
was
they just
a
looked it
fraud.
over.
Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump. thank you.
fraud.
I'm surprised the FBI allows
I
him
think
to
this
spew
is so
bullshit.
rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted.
Oh!
Yeah!
Crime,
Pew, pew, pew!
election
Shots
interference,
fired! Pew, 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 pew!
Liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear.
Thank you.
Where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this,
Was that
on
Mike
the day
Pence?
after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page
Thank you.
on this
Not just
same
Daniel.
old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do.
That's a good-
about
that's
the
a really
housing
good
shortage,
line.
which I have a plan
Great
for.
line.
Address what we must do to support our small businesses. Address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this
Yep.
same old tired playbook.
Oh, yeah. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted.
Every one of those cases
is-
was started by them against
Oh,
their
yeah.
political
Oh, here we
Not
go.
answering
Most of
anything.
them, and
There's
I
no
will win
rebuttal.
The rest on appeal. And you saw that
You
with the decision
can't.
that came
You
down
can't.
just recently from the
He looks
Supreme
old,
Court.
too.
I'm
Yeah.
winning
He does
most
look
of
He
them.
looks
But
old.
those are
Take the
cases
bronzer
of
off.
weaponization.
It's a
Never
different
happened in this
situation.
country. They weaponized the Justice
That ear
Department.
looks good.
Every one of those
Yeah,
cases
he's a heel.
was involved
Bigly.
with
Yep.
the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the
Did I do that?
Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases, and then they say, "Oh,
It's a witch hunt.
he's a criminal." They're the ones that made them go
They
after
have
me. By the way,
nothing
Joe
to do
Biden
with it.
Was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened
Oh,
in my
God, I wouldn't
documents
bring it-
case?
I would
They
not
said,
bring
"Oh,
that
that's
up."
the toughest of them all." A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's
But
never
if-
happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're
President Trump-
fake cases.
President Trump,
Fake.
thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, it's
Well, let's
just
talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he
He's
were to
gonna
enter
smile.
the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice.
got under his
against
skin a
his
bit.
political
He broke.
Yep, he
Someone
broke.
who
He's
has
been breaking.
openly
It's great.
Expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails. Because
Yeah.
certainly we know now the
Yeah.
court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him.
Yeah.
It's up to the American people.
Vice
stop
President Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president,
We gotta
This is the
continue.
one that weaponized.
Why would you
not
put his
me.
mic back
She
on?
Weaponized.
Yeah.
Probably took a bullet to the head. because
Probably
of
took.
the things that they
Probably
say about
took.
me. They talk about
Uh.
democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy
President
with a fake Russia investigation.
That is Mike.
Yeah, it has nothing.
No,
what
Yeah,
does
can we
this
cut
have
the
to
mic?
end? Yeah, thank you.
Vice President
Mine?
Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
But that's okay. People
So
grow and
my
change.
values
And
have not changed, and I'm
Yep.
going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not
don't really
banned
understand
as Vice
fracking,
President
but
of the United
whatever.
States, and in
It's
fact,
digging
I
or-
was
It's
the
digging for
tiebreaker
gas.
vote on the Inflation
And it causes like
Reduction Act,
earthquakes and
which
methane in the
Oh.
pipes
And
in
Please,
the
they
water.
put chemicals in
Yeah.
the
My
ground
position
to
is that
up.
we have
liquidate,
gone to
liquid,
invest
Liquefy?
in
liquefy, thank you,
diverse
the
sources
rocks.
of energy,
Oh.
so we
So because
reduce
you
our
do that,
reliance
now
on
there-
foreign
that
oil.
chemical goes
We have
into the
had
water
the
table.
largest increase
So
So people would have methane in their
domestic
water and
oil
light it on fire. It's
production
wild.
in history
And because of
because
fracking,
an
there are
approach
certain
that
states where literally
recognizes
when
that
they
we
turn
cannot
their water on, they
over-rely
can light it on
foreign
fire.
oil.
Oh.
Because
As
the
it relates
gas
to my
is mixed
values, let me
in
tell
with
you,
the
I
water,
grew
so it's
up
very
a
dangerous.
middle-class
Yeah.
kid raised by a hardworking mother
And it causes earthquakes. It's
who
wild.
worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value of my work.
That's what
to
you
say
gotta
we
do,
are
man.
going to
Yeah.
Yeah,
work with the
this is
private
her
sector
one
and home
shot.
builders
Yep.
to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating
Tearing them
people
down.
down.
Yeah, that's all he knows.
And name calling.
oh.
The true
Angela,
measure
did you
of
write that
leader
speech?
Yep, he started to
is the
he started
leader
to
who
agree with
actually
her.
understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response?
all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens.
Oh, now he's
and a
broke.
Great father.
Yeah,
and I
he
learned
got a
lot.
He was,
million.
But
what do
I
you call it,
was given
middle
a fraction
class.
Of that, a tiny fraction.
A
And I
tiny
built it into
fraction.
Many, many billions of dollars. Many, many billions.
Yeah.
Oh,
Millions.
now he's got billions. I didn't know he was a
Surprised.
billionaire.
So we don't have to
I
talk
thought
about
only
that.
Musk was a
Fracking,
billionaire.
Oh.
She's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police. She's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave
Everyone.
up at least 12
It's not the
and
comedy
They really
store.
should have- they should have had an
50
audience.
policies. Like, she was
Oh,
big
there's
on
no
defund
audience?
the
There's
police.
no audience.
In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute, I'm talking now.
Oh,
You don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She
wow.
went out.
He's mad.
Yeah.
She went out in Minnesota.
Look, he
and
calmed
wanted
down.
to
She
let
looks like,
criminals that killed people,
Darnella there,
that
look.
Yeah.
Angry,
Angry. Just angry.
Things that nobody
Yeah.
would ever
Darnella.
think of.
There's Darnella.
She wants
Oh, yeah, there is Darnella. Look, she's
transgender
shaking her head like,
operations on illegal
Daniel,
aliens that are in
Daniel.
prison. This is a radical left liberal.
You can hear her
that would
saying
do
it,
this.
Daniel.
She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow
Transgender,
fracking in
I missed it.
Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah, we missed that.
If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion.
Wait, she's for it or
So,
against it?
I got the oil
She's
business
for it.
going like nobody has
But
ever
he said
done
if she's
before.
elected, it'll
Yeah,
end.
he's saying
When
that
they
she's
took
lying.
over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher because
100 times
about 3.5
higher.
years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar.
Here we go.
But they take
Yeah.
400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that
for
we
the
have to get to.
environment.
We're
This
out
year.
of
Cut his
time.
mic. That's the whole purpose of
We
it.
have an election in just 56 days.
56.
And I want to talk about
Wow.
the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is the cornerstone
he's
of our
like,
democracy
let's just go
and the role of
past.
the
Yeah.
president in a moment of crisis.
We don't need to talk about
Mr.
that.
President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You
Is he
said
gay?
you would be right there with them.
I think he's married.
The country and the world
John
saw what
Muir?
played out at
John
the Capitol
Muir?
that day. The
a man?
officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office.
And
You
his
did send out tweets
daughter-in-law
that it was
is
more
on
than 2
video,
hours
or
before you sent
Donald
out that video
Jr.
message,
is
telling
dancing
your supporters to go home. Is
in
there
one of the
anything
videos
you
while
regret
she's
about what you
watching
did
this
on that
happen.
day?
You just said a thing that isn't
A thing.
covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech,
Patriotically?
not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side
He
was
said we
killed.
need to fight
Ashley Babbitt
and
was
take our
shot
country
by
back.
An out-of-control police officer that should have never.
Oh, now it's a
ever
policeman.
shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do.
They did
this
tell her
group
not
of
to enter
people
the
that
fucking
have been
thing, and they
treated
shot
so
her.
badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing
Oh,
people?
see,
that
he's
she
going
allowed
back
pour in?
to
She was the border czar. Remember that.
his talking
She was the
points.
border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, "Well, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet." That's because she
You know what's
knows
interesting?
What a bad
This is
job
the
they've
fact.
done.
Obama
What about
had-
those
I can't
people?
look at you.
Quite a
When
few
are they gonna
people
be prosecuted?
deported.
When are these
I'm gonna be Trump.
People from countries all over the world. Not
Go ahead,
just South
Daniel.
America. They're coming in.
What
from
are you
all
saying?
Darnella.
over the world, David. All over the
In my
world.
wig.
Yeah.
And
In my wig.
crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
one
ask
of
you-
those, David, one of those people.
See,
are gonna be
another
prosecuted.
fence, David.
That Xanax
People
wore
that
off.
burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted, or in Seattle. They
Uh-oh.
went into
Bring up
Seattle,
Black
they took
Lives
over a
Matter.
big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that
You
question.
were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another
Yeah,
election.
he didn't
Simple
answer.
question.
He
I
didn't
like
answer.
David.
He didn't
regret
answer it.
about what you did on that day. Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up
Oh,
for a speech.
God,
I said,
he
I think
wanted
it's gonna
these
be
people to
big.
protect his-
I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back
Now
in
he's
writing,
putting it on
you know.
Nancy.
I said, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again,
Demonstration.
It wasn't done by me. It was done
Patriotism.
by others. I said,
Patriotism.
I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened.
Oh,
They
now
wanna
it's
get rid of
Nancy's
that
fault.
tape.
This is so ridiculous.
It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs.
But
I wasn't responsible
this has
for
nothing to do with
security.
Nancy. This
is about
Pelosi
when it
was
happened, he
responsible.
should have
She
called
didn't
in
do a job.
Correct.
It was
immediately.
about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I
Oh,
do
he
want to
told him
Yes.
I was at the
Thank
Capitol
you.
on January 6th.
Thank you.
I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day,
Oh,
the
he's
president
Hang
incited-
Mike Pence is
incited a
what they
violent mob
chanted.
to attack our nation's capital. To
you
desecrate
can see the
our
anger in
nation's
his face.
capital.
Ultimately, it was gonna be a coup.
140
Yeah,
law
just
enforcement
wild.
officers
Yep.
were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason.
I love it. Thank
but
you.
this is not an isolated situation.
Oof.
Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was
Yeah, let's
a
bring it
mob
all
of
up, honey.
people
Just
carrying
bring it
tiki
all up.
torches,
Yep.
spewing anti-Semitic hate.
Yep.
And what did the president then at the time say?
Very fine
There
people.
were fine people on each side.
Nice.
Yep. Yep.
That when it came
Stand
to the
back
president,
and stand down.
Look at, oh, look
Yeah.
at, look, he's
President
pissed.
He's like,
said
oh,
the
I
former
thought she forgot
president
about
said,
that.
Stand back and stand by.
There you go.
Look at Angela.
For
Angela, did you
everyone
write
watching
this
who
speech?
remembers what
Holy
January
shit.
6th was, I say we don't have to go back.
We're not going back.
Let's not go back. We're not going back.
Angela, did you write this fucking
And
speech?
if that was too far for
We're
you,
not.
there is a place in our campaign for you.
It's online.
To stand for the country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos,
Thank you.
and to end
Yep.
the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear.
He's agreeing
on
with
that
her by
point.
shaking her head.
Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath.
Yep.
If this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
And he said he doesn't care.
Let's turn the page on
He
this.
just wants your
Let's
vote.
not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy
was a
business.
term
That's
related
What
to
does that have to do with
everything.
anything? Everything's like,
The
cut his
windmills.
mic. I thought they weren't. Is he allowed
Laura
a rebuttal?
Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse.
Oh,
all
gosh,
these
Sean
people. If they go
Now
an
it's
extra
true.
sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just
Yeah,
like they
well,
bring
we're gonna bring it up.
2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I asked
Yeah,
you
he
this.
can't
You talk
stand
about
it.
the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come
Oh,
she's
God,
not doing
we're back
anything?
to the
And
border.
I'll tell you what
We're
I
back
would
to
do, and I would be
immigration.
very proud to do it. I would say we would both
you build the
leave
wall?
this debate
Yeah,
right now.
thank you.
I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time.
Go down to the
It's been
Washington.
so bad. It's so ridiculous.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
down to
Oh, okay.
Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The
Well, then why
President of the
didn't he
United
do it?
States, you'll
Yeah.
get him out of bed.
Right.
Wake
Why did
him
he
up
bother
before
with a
4
wall?
in the
Yeah,
afternoon.
if
Why
you
did he
could
bother with
just
this
sign-
stupid wall and spend billions of dollars
If he
on
signs
a
bill
partial
that the
wall?
border is
Yeah.
closed, all you have
Why?
to do is
Yeah.
say it
If
to the
this
Border
so
Patrol,
easy, why didn't
phenomenal.
you're right? Why didn't
If
he
they
go
do
down
that, the
and
border
sign
is
this
closed.
bill?
The bill.
Those people are killing many people,
I wanna-
unlike J6.
We talked immigration here.
J6.
Oh,
God.
This is next issue to both of you because it really brings us.
I love how David's not affected. He's like,
No.
whatever. We're moving on to this later.
Mr. President, for 3.5 years.
I kinda
after
want- I want
you
his
lost the
attitude, like,
2020
yeah, we're
election,
going-
you
we're
repeatedly,
moving
falsely
Yeah.
claimed that you won.
President,
many
shut the fuck
times
up.
saying you
Like, we're
won
moving
in
on.
a
Yep.
landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now?
I don't remember what he said. That's good. He's getting old.
Sarcastically, you know that.
Oh,
We said,
wow.
we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look.
Oh, now he
there's so
won.
much proof. All you have to do is look at it, and they should have sent it back to the legislatures for
Oh,
approval.
God.
I got almost
Let's not go
75
back.
million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten.
That's
I
why he was
told him I
calling,
got
asking for
63, which is what I
11,000
got in
votes.
So why didn't he win
2016. You
then?
can't
Yeah.
be beaten.
Right.
The election, people should never be thinking about it. An election is fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls. And we have to have it.
God.
We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections.
Are we
Our
making a border wall
elections
on
are
Canada
bad.
too?
And a lot of these illegal
No.
immigrants
No.
coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even
Thank
speak
you,
English.
Louis.
They don't even
That's
know
a
what
good point.
country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're
Trying to get the-
allowing them to come into our country.
They can't vote.
They can't vote. What an
I
idiot.
didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker, we didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republicans.
judge
All
looked at it.
lost.
And said there
They
was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
the other
exactly.
thing.
You
They
have
said
no
we didn't
standing.
have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing?
please,
The
get over it.
president of
You
the United
lost.
States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at
Oh,
the
that's
facts,
how we
and I'd
lost.
love to have you do a special on it.
No,
Oh,
we've
sure.
done. We're done.
Georgia, and I'll
We're
Good
done.
show you
people, good
Wisconsin,
people.
and I'll
4
show you
years later, we're
Pennsylvania,
done.
and I'll show you-
We're
we
done.
have so many facts and statistics.
Then where
You know
are they?
what?
Giuliani's
Yeah.
melting,
Thank you.
trying to prove
Shaking
your.
his face at a McDonald's.
The problem we have right now is we have a nation.
Where's
Where
that?
is
Is this what's
Giuliani?
Scaramucci?
They put it-
Remember
Yeah.
Scaramucci?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to Scaramucci?
Mr. President, thank
I think
you.
he opened up a
Vice President
restaurant
Harris,
in
President
the Upper West Side.
that he lost by-
Carmine.
Still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent
That's
of the law.
scary when you
which
think
will
about
include
it.
long-term prison
It's just
sentences.
threats.
Yeah.
One of your campaign's top lawyers responded.
That's
saying,
a
"We won't let Donald
dictator.
Trump
Yep.
intimidate
That's
us.
not someone
We
that's
won't
here
let
for the
him
people."
suppress
No.
the vote." Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So
Jesus. Whoa, look at his ego. It just fell. She broke him.
Yeah.
She broke. You see that? He buckled. He was
81
hurt.
million.
81 million people said you're fired.
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
fired.
I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States.
Good job.
And world leaders are
Sure, Darnella's
laughing.
loving that one right now.
I have talked with military
World leaders are
some of whom
laughing. He
work
broke
with you,
again.
and they say you're a disgrace.
Yeah. It's true.
And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability
Mentality.
to
Mental capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
Yep.
I'll give you
We
1
do.
minute to
She
respond.
should say he called Joe old.
Oh, look,
now
look,
he's
look, look.
old.
He's pissed.
Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men. They call him a strong
He's
man.
huge.
He's a tough
Huge.
person.
He's a good guy. He's a good
The
guy.
world.
What's his name?
Prime Minister of
Viktor
Hungary.
Orbán.
They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up?
Oh,
He
well,
said,
we have
"Because
nothing to do
you
with
need
that.
Trump back as president. They
So
were
one
afraid-
person,
guy?
one
One
guy.
guy.
I don't
One
want
guy.
to use the word
Viktor
afraid,
Yeah.
but
Orbán.
he
The
had-
whole world is
China
laughing
was
at him.
afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him.
I don't think they're
Look
afraid
at
of
what's
you.
going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline.
What are we talking about,
in our country,
pipelines?
He ended that.
Yeah, he
But let
sounds
the
psychotic
Russians
now.
build a pipeline
Yeah.
going all over
About
Europe and
eating
heading into
dogs
Germany.
and
The
then
biggest pipeline
Windmills.
in the
Solar
world.
and windmills
Yep.
and
Pipelines.
Yeah.
Orban said it.
He's not
again,
answering any
his
questions.
fan base, they don't know what this means.
No.
This
This is
is
way
We had
above
no
them.
problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that
Oh,
you saw at
God.
a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy.
You know,
He got
Oprah and Ellen
14
are really
million
watching
votes,
this
and they
too. I haven't
threw
heard
him out
any
of
helicopters,
office.
nothing.
And you know what? He hates
They're-
her. He can't stand her.
He hates her.
But
Mr.
he got 14 million votes.
You had a
They
minute.
threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm okay
President,
with it
Mr.
because
President, your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very
Time is
well.
up. Cut his mic.
No, his
Shut
time
the
is
fuck
really
up.
up.
The
His
Israel-Hamas
time is
war
up.
and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international
Ellen's
humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100
Netanyahu's another
hostages
Trump.
remain.
Yeah.
Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do
Has
it?
any other country been able to?
Look, has
get-
any other president been able to do that?
or
No.
any other
October
country?
7th,
Are we the only ones
Hamas,
responsible for brokering a
terrorist
deal?
Well, the problem is
organization,
that we act like world police, so people look to us.
slaughtered.
Okay, and
do
we
that.
also provide the
100
weapons.
Correct.
Many of
Well,
them
go get
young
my gun,
people who
Louis.
were
Okay.
simply
I'm sending
attending
it to
concerts.
Israel.
Women were horribly raped. And so
Oh, he doesn't want to hear the
absolutely,
word
I said
rape.
then, I say now. Israel has
Like
a right
Donald.
to
It's a
defend
verb for
itself.
him.
We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end.
Yeah.
It must end immediately.
Then,
and the way
if she
it
says
will
that,
end
we
is
need to stop
a
sending them
ceasefire
military
deal and we
aid,
need
all of that.
hostages.
And
That needs to
that's
stop.
It's not going to
And
happen.
so
Yeah.
we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must.
right now, technically,
chart
it's
a course
Biden's
for
problem.
a two-state
Yeah.
solution.
Yes.
It's not really her
And
problem
No.
that
until she
But if
gets
she takes
elected.
over, she needs to do
Correct.
just
Security
that.
for the
What is he going to
Israeli
do?
people
He's
and
going to
Israel
invite
and
over
an equal measure
Netanyahu
for
and they're going to have
Palestinians.
lunch?
He's going to have lunch with
But the
Putin.
one thing I will
Yeah.
assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran.
Oh, he's
and
chomping
any
at the
threat
bit.
that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians
Israel has been
have
horrible to
security,
Palestine.
Oh, absolutely.
self-determination, and the dignity they so
I
rightly
kind of
deserve.
feel like that's a.
President
She
Trump,
didn't do so
how
well
would
with that
you
statement
negotiate
because.
with Netanyahu
Look, that
and
whole piece of
also
land has been
Hamas in
fought
order to get
since
the
the
Yeah,
medieval
before
times.
we were,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Filling
Before
more
Christ.
innocent
Yeah,
civilians
let's
in
just
Gaza.
leave it
If I
at
were
that.
president,
Nobody's been
it
able
would
to
have
stop
never
that
started.
that land from
If
being
I
on
were
fire.
president,
They're gonna kill each
Russia
other.
would
Exactly.
have
And maybe they should.
Ever.
I said
know
nuke
Putin
it, move
very
everybody
well.
out
He
there,
would
nuke
never-
it.
and there
Who
was
can
no
live
threat
there
of it
after
either
that?
if I
What are they
lived
going to
for 4
fight for if
years.
there's no land to live
I've
there?
gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up. Far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when
So
she
now we don't
mentions
understand what's
about
going on.
Israel,
His
all of a
fan
sudden,
base doesn't understand what's
she
going on
hates
over there.
Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates
Well, wasn't he
Israel.
at
If she's
Epstein's
president,
Island?
I believe
No, he-
that
well,
Israel
yes,
will not
thank you.
exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one.
Your
She hates
bankruptcies.
Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population.
Oh, wow.
Because
Okay,
the
hates
whole
them.
place is going to get blown
Place.
up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel. Israel will be gone. It would
Because
have
of
never
her?
happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the
I get back to my
28
point. He has not looked at her
spheres
once.
of terror, and they are spheres of terror. Horrible
You're a
terror.
terror.
They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money.
Oh, I thought he
Terror.
hated journalists.
They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the
This
Middle
is
East.
not
this
our-
would have never happened.
completely
I will
our
get that settled and
Yeah.
fast, and I'll get the war
doing.
with
But even if
Ukraine
even
and
if Trump
Russia
gets
ended.
elected, how is he
If
going
I'm
to fix it?
president-elect,
How is he going to
I'll
fix
get
it?
it
No,
done
they're not.
He's not.
before
No.
even becoming president.
That's what I would say. How are you fix it?
Yeah.
Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel.
Go
and
back
the
to your
Israeli
prosecution
people.
days.
He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known.
He's
He
breaking,
admires
baby.
dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known
Yep.
that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It
Thank
is well
you.
known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un.
Yep. Yes. Yep.
That these dictators
That's
and
gonna be a good
autocrats
reel.
are rooting
Yep.
for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors.
Yep.
And that is why
He shook his head yes.
so many military leaders who you have worked with have told
He
me.
won't
Look,
look
he
at
wants
her.
to look at her.
He can't.
Look at he's
That is
hunched.
why
Look at that
can't.
body language.
Yep.
He's
We have to have
he's
angry.
Yep.
He
who
must
is
be
not
wearing a brace or
consistently
something.
weak and
There
wrong
must
on
be some
national
sort of
security,
brace that like
including the
won't
importance
allow
of
him
To turn.
turn and look at her.
That's it. They
They-
put a brace on
There's a
They
it.
tack in his
cinched him.
big toe. He can't move it.
She's the one that
She's the
caused
one.
it.
She
That's
caused
weak
it.
on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed
Everybody
her
are-
last
how are
week,
their crime rates
said, "I
down
hope she
everywhere
wins."
else?
And I think
Yeah.
he meant it. Because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders
Oh,
of
God,
other countries
come
They were already
on.
fighting
and
on the border
incompetent.
for
They are
years.
Endorsed
grossly
Kamala.
incompetent.
I know.
And I
But
just
that's
ask one
that.
question.
I think that might be
Why
a
did
kiss of
Biden
death.
go in and kill the
Do you know what I
Keystone
mean?
Yeah.
Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's
Because
ever
he and
made,
Putin
Nord Stream
are
2,
good
the
buddies.
biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany.
But that war
and
was
all
already
over
being
Europe.
fought.
And now we're going the
Because
pipeline
they're
again.
weak
Yeah.
And they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way, gets
President
paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of
Yeah,
issues
thank
to
you.
get to.
Bye
We'll be
bye.
right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia.
Wow. Oh my God.
Okay.
Wait,
Go ahead and
pause
sign us.
it.
No,
Okay.
go ahead and sign us off.
Pause it. So as you can see, we have been watching this debate furiously, feverishly, huge. And Cousin Angela and I and Louie have been talking shit, and hopefully you agree with us. We have more to come. We'll see in a few moments.